or those individuals who had the know-how to move fast without the knowledge of the rest of the family and register themselves as owners of particular parcels of land. You recall that at that time, identity cards had not been issued, so an individual would just give out his names and have himself registered as a owner of a parcel of land without the knowledge of the rest. And if later on the other family members try to claim any interest in that land, that act, which was passed in 1963, would be used against them. And courts would hold that all customary interests should have been disclosed at the time of registration, and since that was not done, no such claims could be raised thereafter. Now, there are also problems which were encountered in the former White Islands when the British settlers left and sold land to individual Africans. You would recall that these were large farms, and in most cases, no individual would buy the entire parcel alone. So some groups would be formed, partnerships to buy land. And in some cases, you would find that the directors or the people who are leading the groups would present only their names at the time of registration. After buying the land, they would present their names alone. And at the end of the day, they would obtain title in their names without disclosing the interests of the rest of the partners. They would not disclose that they were in a group, and as a result, there were disputes all over. And up to date, I believe, though I do not know the history of this place very well, I believe there are still some farms where you will find disputes are still persisting to date. And the law would still be used to deny the rights of the group members or the partners who are not disclosed at the time of registration, unless initially, after the passing of this Registered Land Act, courts would enforce very strongly the concept of absolute title. So that in those initial days, around 1970-72, you would find that families would go to court, but the courts would say, no, once your brother was registered, he became the absolute owner of that land, and you cannot claim anything. You cannot claim any portion of land. And they say customary law claims cannot be held after registration. They will not be recognized after registration. And they also say, since those adjudications, they were first registrations after adjudication, you cannot challenge it even in cases where there was open fraud. A solution by requiring the person who is holding the title to maybe subdivide the land and transfer to the rest of the family members who are entitled to that land. In the former White Islands, what happened? Upon independence, the independence government gave an option to the settlers to either remain in Kenya or leave. But if they were leaving, they had the right to sell the land to either the government or individuals. They were given the option of selling land. Now, how was this sale conducted? You will find that at the time the sale was done, it was on a willing buyer, willing seller. Yani mtu mwenye ako na uwezo anaweza kununua, mwenye ako na nia ya kununua anunue. And as I have said before, individuals could buy as an individual, or they would form groups and buy land. So that if you come to Tanzania, for example, most of the settlers left and the land was sold to Africans in groups. Iliuziwa kwa groups na watu wakakatakata. There was no restriction as to who would buy land in Tanzania, who would buy land in Uasin Gishu, or in other areas formerly occupied by the whites. Ungepata Mluya anatoka huku anaenda mpaka Uasin Gishu anapata shamba, anatoka Pokot anaweza toka huko akuja kununua shamba Tanzania. Mambo kama hayo. It was free enterprise. Anybody who had the capacity could buy land within the former white islands. Serikali pia ikaanzisha settlement schemes. Ilikuwa inanunua some of these lands yenye ilikuwa occupied na wazungu. Ilikuwa inanunua pia na create settlement schemes. Kwa sababu zingine ile shamba yenye haikuwa imekuwa registered iliweza kukatwa na kutoa settlement schemes. These settlement schemes were meant for the landless. They were actually meant for the landless. It has continued even immediately after independence, and as late as the 1990s, some settlement schemes were being created. They were actually meant for the landless. They were over a period of, I think, 30 years. And again, in these settlement schemes, there were no restrictions. So long as you could prove that you are landless, you could acquire land. But of course, we know the abuses which have been there. Ile shida imetokea kwa settlement schemes. Tunajua nini ilifanyika. Tumeelezwa na surveyor kwamba unaweza pata mtu ako na jina lake kwa several settlement schemes. Unapata hapa 10 acres, badala ya 5 acres ambayo labda ilikuwa inapeanwa. 10 acres, ameenda settlement nyingine 5 acres, hivyo. The same individual. That was not a landless person. So immediately, these people acquired land, they started selling to others, and that has been going on up to today. People have been selling land without any restrictions, and no part of Kenya was set aside for any community, for any particular community. To do so, imekataliwa na koti kwamba haiwezekani sehemu moja ya Kenya isemekane ni ya watu fulani ama area fulani itengewe watu fulani, hata kama ilikuwa reserve. They were just administrative. Ilikuwa tu kama administrative divisions, sio haikuwa na nia yoyote ya eti hiyo imekuwa sasa kama ni Bungoma district for example. Tunajua Bungoma ni hiyo ilidirika wazi kwa kesi ambayo ilikuwa kule Meru. Kulikuwa na shamba katika county council ya Isiolo ambayo mbeleni ilikuwa inamilikiwa na Wamasai. Sasa hii county council ya Isiolo ilipeana hiyo shamba itumike kwa department ya serikali, na watu fulani wakaona hapana, hii haiwezekani. Wakaenda kotini kudai kwamba hiyo shamba ni ya jamii ya Wamasai, haipaswi kupeanwa kwa ajili ya mtu yeyote mwingine.